Peace talks between Russia and Ukraine are on hold, the Kremlin announced on Friday, accusing European nations of obstructing negotiations, even as Moscow continues its bombardment of Ukrainian cities and intense fighting rages in Donetsk. The channels of communication are in place and functioning. Our negotiators can communicate through them, but for now it is probably more accurate to say there is a pause, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters. He stressed that Russia remains open to dialogue, but claimed European countries are hindering progress. Of course, you can't wear rose-colored glasses and expect the negotiation process to yield lightning-fast results. And I would like to remind you probably of the words of President Trump, who also said that at first he thought that it would be possible to settle everything in one moment, but then he realized that more time was needed for this. The Russian side maintains its readiness to follow the path of peaceful dialogue and peaceful searches for ways to settle the situation. But the fact that the Europeans are hindering this is indeed true. It is no secret to anyone. Kiev's European allies have been preparing new sanctions against Moscow and calling on Washington to follow suit. They also pushed for a ceasefire after last month's summit in Alaska between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin failed to produce concrete results. Amid the diplomatic freeze, Russia and Belarus launched large-scale military exercises, Zapad 2025, running through Tuesday. The Kremlin insists the drills were planned long before Poland accused Moscow of sending attack drones into its airspace, a move that heightened fears across NATO's eastern flank. The objectives of the drills are to improve the skills of commanders and staff, as well as regional and coalition troop coordination, Russia's defense ministry said, adding that the exercises are not aimed against any other country. Tensions, however, remain high. Poland responded by closing its last open border crossings with Belarus, laying barbed wire along the frontier. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk described the coming days as critical, warning that his country is closer to open conflict than at any time since World War II.
The hostile drones that posed a direct and immediate threat were successfully shot down. I asked General Kukwe, the Chief of the General Staff, to convey words of appreciation to the pilots who took part in this operation. The procedures worked, the decision-making process was flawless. The threat has been eliminated completely, thanks to the firm and decisive stance of the military commanders, effectively. Our soldiers, pilots, and also our allies. Thank you very much for that. We are most likely dealing with a large-scale provocation, but at the same time we are in consultations with our allies. I am in constant contact with the NATO Secretary General, so that over the next few hours and days, and in the future to act just as effectively as we did tonight in the face of this kind of threat. This is the first time that Russian drones have been shot down over the territory of a NATO country. And that's why all our allies are treating the situation very seriously. We have not recorded any casualties. Of course, the search for the remains of the downed drones is ongoing. We are gradually reopening the airports. The closure of the airports was not caused by a threat or an attack on the airports, but was necessitated by the situation due to operational needs of our airmen. At this moment, these airports are being systematically reopened. Obviously, there will probably be some problems, disruptions related to delays, but I'm sure you all understand the necessity of this kind of action. I'm also in constant contact, of course, with our military and with the President. For many, many long hours, we have been diligently talking and carefully assessing the profound and far-reaching consequences of these truly dramatic and significant events. We are also assessing future needs. This situation shows how important not only investments are, but also full coordination of actions, simple procedures, so that in case of a threat we can act appropriately and decisively. These procedures have worked. I would also like to thank the commanders very much when I was at the operational command last night. With the utmost respect, I observed the extremely professional actions of our soldiers and commanders, as well as all the civilian services that have been involved in this operation from the very beginning. It is still ongoing. I'm talking about the search for debris and the possible identification of any incidents, such as damage to infrastructure. For now, as I said, fortunately, we have no information about any possible casualties. Consultations with our allies are ongoing. I want to emphasize in the strongest terms that the cooperation between institutions is exemplary. I am in constant contact. We have already had 2 meetings tonight, including with the President. In a moment, I will also be speaking with the Speaker of the Sejm. It is extremely important that in moments of such trial, all institutions function like a single fist. And I must assure you here, with full conviction, that all these institutions are passing their test. An important lesson for all of us. We are ready to repel such provocations and attacks. We are well prepared, and the situation is serious. And today, no one can have any doubts that we must prepare for various scenarios. At this moment, I can say that this first test, our military forces, our steadfast allies, and also the comprehensive procedures that have been meticulously prepared for such a significant eventuality have successfully passed this crucial test, and the well-established procedures and detailed plans prepared for such a critical case are indeed working effectively. There is no reason to panic. Life will go on as normal. We will keep citizens informed about all events so that there is complete clarity about what is happening in Polish airspace and at the Polish border. But at this moment, there is no reason to introduce any restrictions that would make everyday life more difficult for citizens. If there is such a need, we will of course communicate promptly. Thank you very much. Such quick and very precise communication prepared by the military. This is also a guarantee of informational reliability. I am addressing everyone without exception, to all politicians, journalists, commentators, to be very sensitive to attempts at disinformation and hostile propaganda from the very first minutes of this attack or provocation. The Russians are very active online, and disinformation, false information, and attempts to spread panic will certainly accompany us. And here, we all must also pass the test of civic and political responsibility. We cannot, under any circumstances, give in to this kind of hybrid informational attacks and disinformation. That is why I ask you to rely primarily on official statements, those communicated by the Polish armed forces. We have agreed with the President that we will formulate these political statements together, also with our associates. At precisely 6:30 in the evening, I had yet another important meeting scheduled with the esteemed President. Now we have a government meeting. We will be here at work all day today, of course, so that as a government, so that we can respond to any possible and unexpected situations. Although, as I said, at this moment the situation seems to be under control.